Hi guys. Let's do the usual, can we? Can you hear me? Stick it in the stream. Can you put it in the chat just to make sure you can hear me? I'm sure you can, but just to make sure. Although I could hear myself. No one's typing in the. Yeah, great. Okay. Right. So. It is a bit of a. My chair's over there. A bit quiet. Oh, okay. Hang on. I was a bit concerned about this. Let's turn that up a bit more. Let's see. Is that any better? Is that any better? Loud and clear. Okay. Right. Okay. So, all right. Does seem low. I've got the mic a little away from me. I can't shout. I'm going to be probably not talking overly noisy. But turn your volume up. Unless I bring the mic a bit closer. Right, let's try this. Let's try bringing this a bit closer. It won't go closer. Great. Right, that might be better, but when I go over there, I don't think it's going to be as good. So we just have to keep an eye on this and see how we go. Right. I'm assuming we can all see the start of the show. Let me just turn that round a bit so you can see it. Right. I've got a couple of other views we're going to do. So, yeah, the problem I've got is, well, I'm going to sit over there. So, I don't have a mic. I'm just using this, but I have got the volume actually quite high on it. So, let's see how we go. Right. First things first. I've got a little video I'm going to show of me taking the monitor apart, and so you can get to see inside it and see what makes the thing is. Now, you're going to hear me say this a lot. It's only a bloody prototype. I am gonna say this a lot, and I'm gonna say it so because people, they come in and go out, and I want to make sure that people are aware this is a prototype. So this is not a finished product. I mean, I wouldn't buy it, but actually I did. It cost me a fortune, well, a small fortune. But yeah, so I will keep saying it. I'm sorry, I'm going to be banging on about it, because just make sure everyone realises this is a prototype. And the whole point of this, is to allow me to test the ideas. What works well, what doesn't work well. Which cards do I want to put in this, which don't I want to put in it. And as soon as I actually built this thing, I realised the design was a piece of junk, but I wouldn't have found that out if I hadn't built it, because it's all very well. When you build these things, you design them and you do it in 3D and looks, yeah, that's great, loads of room, yeah. But you'll see later on when I take it apart, the space. I've got so much space I could be using. Those whole Podgeals are going to be much, much bigger to give you room to work, because you can't work on it. You have to take the panel out to work on it. It's ridiculous. So it is crucial you understand that this is a prototype. It's really just there for me to experiment and to give you an idea what it's going to look like, and give you a feel for it. Now, people have been asking me, let me just take a swig. People have been asking me all the time, specs. I'm not giving out any specs. I'm not giving any, well, yeah, I might give the odd little glimmer, but the reason for that is that I haven't I'm going to bring a chair over. I haven't finalised it yet, so it's impossible for me to give specs. The one thing I will tell you, the panel is going to be 1280 by 1024. Okay, I don't see or personally, because the 4:3 aspect ratio panels are actually quite tricky to get. I'm not saying they're not impossible, but they're quite tricky to get as for supply, and they tend to be industrial usage. So you tend to pay more for the panels. Now I am experimenting. I've got loads. I've got 5-6 panels at the moment. I've got another 2 coming, so it's experimentation. So there's no point me talking about specifications until I've chosen one that I think is suitable overall for the project. Because remember, what's good for one person is not going to be good for another person. So I have to get a kind of balance, and I've had a lot of fun doing this, and it's been a bit of a nightmare at times. But that's the whole point of this part of the process. Now, right, so we seem to have a few people. Well, there's a few. So I'm going to run a little video clip. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long. And it's just me taking the things. It's very ad hoc. I got the camera out while I was doing it. Every time I took a bit off the thing up, I've got you probably know I've got an office where I build everything, but I experiment here, and I've got up in my loft. Me and my little boy, we've got this whole carpeted area off, and we've got like a load for my soldering iron and bits of obviously soldering iron away from Alfie, obviously, but where we have the Amiga side, and then the other side is his play side. So I tend to do all the experimenting up there for good reasons. So this is a video you'll see on the carpet. Be very careful with this prototype. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've got to be honest, I absolutely love it. But I'm going to probably I'm going to talk through some of the design things I absolutely hate, right? And some of the things I love. And give you a bit of a flavour. But don't come out of this at the end going, I don't do what I want. Because what's happening is I'm judging what people. Yes, it's not for free, whatever. It scales into that panel, okay? But I'm being distracted by. Let me put the video on. Have a look at the inside of it so you can see how it's constructed already. Now, again, I'll talk more about the design once you've seen the video, and we'll come back and then we'll have a chat. But as I said, make sure you've got your questions ready. If you're going to put a question, can you put it at the beginning? Put the word question. It's easier for me to step through, and I will later on, once I've gone through a certain part, I'm going to scroll through. Oh. Well, the BBC's not going to be playing tonight because it's just gone pop. Smells in here. Yeah, I was going to put the beep on. I thought because good job the Nintendo's working, isn't it? Let's get to the video and I'll just get rid of the smoke. I only just bought that and all. I only just bought that beep. I think the power supply's gone pop. Should have probably had a look at it, shouldn't I? Anyway, let's watch this video, right? Okay, bear with me. Yeah, don't worry about it, alright? It's okay. Alright, before I tear it apart. It's having some changes made. Okay, this is this is underneath the front bezel. You can see the metal white frame and the 15-inch panel and the way it connects and little brackets. Obviously the 19-inch goes straight to the ends and then mounts here. Here's the rear view. Now this is the idea of the pods. Now take this piece as a with a pinch of salt because we've not finalised this yet because it's down to the controller. But at the moment the one we're using has got all these ports, and this is component and this is left and right audio, and it does 2 composites. Whichever one we have will have 2 composites, but I don't know about the rest of it. Don't hold me to it. Decide, make your decision based on the final version. This is just to let you know as we go along. And of course this is the OSSC, and of course there's a new version coming. It's complex stuff. Here you can see inside, now you can see the metal frame. This is how they're going to come, powder coated. So the metalwork, this is not plastic, this is metal. The outside is plastic, this bit, but this is metal. So it's the structure and the strength. Okay, and you can see in the bottom, I have the controller card. Now this may change. We haven't finalised the controller card yet because it's quite a complex subject. And at the top you can see I've got my OSSC. Now obviously in the final version, this is still to be discussed, but we need to move that LCD panel to the front of the monitor, and also the infrared, that kind of thing. So as I said, this is a prototype, so bear with us. Okay, I've powered that. Now again, this is a prototype, it's important. That's coming down to a splitter, and it's coming down to, I've got a jumper on the board, which is giving me 5 volt and ground. Asked me about the story about me sticking 12 volts up my mister the other day. Don't make that mistake. Luckily, thank God for Intel being good designers. It didn't blow up the D10. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, so that's all plugged in. Of course, you ain't going to be able to see the screen, and you can't. And the LCD's, the infrared's going to be interesting because it's obviously facing inside. But I'm thinking of prototype, really important, because people go, "Oh, that's no good." It's a prototype, right? So this is just for me to test it. There are plans afoot on that. But anyway, so yeah, that's before I put it all together. So that all looks quite good. There's another hole here. I'm going to put my D10 Nano in it another time, not for this meeting, but probably for January I'll have my D10 in it. Okay, so 19 inches in there now. And you'll notice on this side we've got some packing because it's a little bit wider than the panel. It's tight this end, but I've done that because of the cover. Remember, again, I know I keep saying it's prototype, but I'm a bit, nervous of people going, well, that looks rubbish. Anyway, okay, it's all built now. Got lots connected. Let me turn it around. So you go. So now we've actually got this working, which is the OSSC. I've got component. I'm not using the internal VGA yet. I'm going to use that to connect up my D10 Nano. So we've got the bits all connected down the bottom. We're good now. Oh, let's turn the camera back on. Anybody remember my camera business? Right. It's quite warm. Oh, it smells great. First time I've really used it, to be honest. I was going to do some stuff with it. I wanted one of these for ages. I think it's just the power supply that's gone. I've just keeping an eye on it in case it literally catches fire, but yeah, it's gone. Power supply's gone. Right, okay. So it's kind of thrown me a bit. Right, let me put the let's put this over on here, and I'm going to go sit over here. Right. Okay. I should have known. I should have opened it up. Should have known how to look at it. But I've only put it on about 2 or 3 times, and I've had it sitting here for quite a while. Oh, by the way, can you hear me? Right? Shall I bring the mic a bit closer? Let's see if I can bring it a little bit closer. Yeah, if I put that there. Hopefully that'll be a bit better. When it's delivery date, don't even go there. Right. Okay, it's quite a few questions. So, right, let's go through this. So, monitor. And as I said, this is a this is a prototype, and I will keep saying this because so that people who come in don't go, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? You know, like one person already has. The idea is, well, there's two reasons. I have one personal reason, which I wanted to make a nice. I like 19-inch monitors. Okay, I really do. I think they're just a nice size, but I'm a bit fed up with the standard panels. You know, it's very hard to get 4.3s. I've got 4.3s, but I wanted to build something that looked the part, but wasn't fat, just like empty space. I wanted to do other things with it. I want it to be, you know, very capable system. Let me get the volume right down. I wanted it to be able to do all kinds of things. I wanted to be able to, the idea is to make it so it can. Now I don't know how far I'm going to get with this, but I wanted it so that it can be affordable and not necessarily the ultimate solution. You know, because everyone's going to say, CRT, I need a CRT, and I'm going to. A lot of people are going to hate me. I've got CRTs. Look, I've got one over there. I've got two in the loft. I've got 3 in my office. I wouldn't use any of them ever. I don't like them. You know, my eyes are really bad because of CRTs. So I have a different perspective, and I think panels are great. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand when you see it, they look really nice. But they're very hard to get. No one makes them anymore, and I don't believe they're good for your eyes. But that's beside the point. Probably half my audience will now disappear because I've said that. But I do want a panel that looks good, and one of the things I was insistent on, it had to be an IPS panel because I try always buy IPS panels. Now, if I get this and I turn this sideways, yeah, still see it, still see it, still see it. Yeah. Now, a couple of the panels I've got up in the loft, and I was really insistent on because IPS is actually not really. It's just a concept more than anything, and a couple of companies kind of I think have the rights to the name or something anyway. But basically, what it means is it's a good quality panel, bright, and it can be viewed from multiple angles and quite shallow angles. And that to me was more important. So it looks good, and it can give a good experience. Now, the other thing that crops up a lot, people are always talking about, is it's got to be 15 kilohertz. It's got to be 15 kilohertz. Well, this is 15 kilohertz. The panel's not. The panel's not 15 kilohertz. But everything you're going to see is coming out. So as you can see now, I've got this. I mean, you're not going to be able to tell from this. I've got it on it so you can see the bright colours, and I'll turn it around and so on. But you can't tell from this. You need to see it up close. But this is going in as composite. I do actually have component inputs, but I'll come to that in a second. So I've got that, and I've got a few different devices. Again, I had the BBC going in the composite to show, just because what I've got is having to pick out controller cards that are mixing the basic panel controller card to give me the basic functionality that I need, and then to expand on that with expansion cards, the kinds you probably are aware of already. So hopefully the volume's okay. No one's. Let's see if anyone's saying about the volume. Right. Where was I? Yeah. So I'm trying to create something that for people, for example. So this box here has got a Mystics in it. For those who don't know, it's basically a D10 Nano in a custom mini ITX board that outputs either as VGA or as HDMI. You get the best of it. In fact, if I switch over to the VGA now, okay, I'm not sure what's on it here. So let me see. Yeah, you can see that, right? So that's being fired out of here, but I'm always running this at 1024/768. Now I know the panels are 1280, 1024. I don't tend to run it at that. But when you've got these in, they make such a nice job of it. Now you can run it native if you want to. This actually looks really, another reason of going 19-inch that for my eyesight, 1024 768 it actually is better for me, but it does give you those extra pixels, and the Mr. Hardware really does a great job of scaling, and it does look really good. But you can do multiple scales. I know you can go 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, etc., that kind of thing. And you can play around with that, and you've got the room to do it on these panels. And I always think more pixels are better than less. And plus, it's a standard thing. If I start, you tend to get the 15-inch ones only 1024 nowadays. So 1280, I think, is a good panel. But as I said, the most important thing is the quality of the pixels and the quality of the display, and being able to turn it around and be able to see it. Again, look, let me show you. Turn this sideways, you can still see it. And it is a nice display. Right, so I've got here the Nintendo's going in the composite. As I said, another time later on, I'm going to be doing it in components, so you can see just how good they are in component. But even composite, it looks great to me. The BBC actually looks really good, because the AV chip. One of the things of choosing the cards is, let me grab one actually. Here's a card. I don't get it today. And as you can see, it's got a lot of photos. So basically, it has. And now this is going to be the one, because this is going end of life, which is great, because I found this out about a month ago. But this one's got component, 2 composite inputs, VGA. It's got most important thing, it's got internal connections. So it's internal HDMI as well as external HDMI, internal VGA, internal components. So I could do all this work internally, which is crucial to this. You don't want wires hanging in the back of it and plug it back in again. So, but the new one, the only thing is different between the new one and this one, it doesn't have component on board. But that's not really a problem, really, because the kind of people who are going to buy the basic monitor, because I'm going to do this in 2 flavours. I'm going to come on to the more advanced version in a second. The basic version will be that, the controller, and it will have 2 HDMI ports. That'd be a difference. However, one of them will be internal. So when you've got the internal cable connected, it will be, you can't use the external one. That's another thing that was the downside of this one. It's only got 1 HDMI, and when you use the internal one, you can't use the external one, which is a bit frustrating. The new one, no problem. The only difference is the new one's exactly the same as this, except no component, which I was a bit bummed. But the thing with the component was that it would do, the component looks amazing. You could put the Amiga display. In fact, let me just switch over to my Amiga. Let me just go to there. Now what we got this on. So hopefully you can see that. Here's my 1000, which is this, obviously. And that is going through the VGA. I'll tell you about it in a second. But that's going in via a VGA port. Whereas this, I grab this. This might give you a clue what's in it. I think you've actually seen the video actually, so you should know what's in it. If I do that, let's run this again. Let's run this up. I don't know if I want the. Let's turn the volume down. Yeah, there we go. So, that'll probably get me in trouble. Well, you should have seen the title for this. So I've got with these boards, you get your imports, and it's really important that inside, if you remember watching the video, you'll see all the internal connections. You don't want to be like running out and coming back in again. The whole thing has to be done internally. And one of the problems I've had is, as you noticed, there's not a lot of space inside the chassis. I kind of closed it off, but I mean, I've got loads of room I could open it up, so I'm going to open it right up, because you can't work on it. It's very hard to work inside. So that's one of the things I found out when I was doing this. Another reason for doing this. So the next board is probably more likely the potential board, and that, as I said, that has 2 HDMIs, 1 internal, 1 external, VGA, and it's got VGA internally as well, 2 composites, which do look really good. I mean, this is going through from this is SCART input, this one, and it's not a bad little board. That doesn't mean it's necessarily this is the final way of doing it, because I've got something else coming in that I'm going to experiment with. But one thing I do want to cover is this business with the 15 kHz, because Most panels don't have native 15 kilohertz. When I mention 15 kilohertz to the panel makers, they go, "What's that?" It's even CRTs, right? Anything newer than 50 years ago. No, I'm joking, obviously. Anything more modern was 31 kilohertz and higher. So 15's almost impossible to get. Now, I don't see the point, because all of this you're watching is all 15 kilohertz. What it's doing is it's coming in, being processed, and then displayed on a panel at 50 hertz, and it just looks fantastic. So this whole 50. Now, having said that, I've actually got an arcade panel coming. I'm going to experiment with an arcade, ones that literally go in arcade machines, which have jammer connections, that kind of thing. I'm going to experiment with them and see if that will do. But my concern is that I don't want to go 15 kilohertz and have a crap display, because you can't see it here, but this monitor that's sitting here can support 15 kilohertz on a flat panel. Okay, you can plug a meter into it. It looks crap. It's a rubbish monitor, a horrible monitor. I don't like it at all. I ain't selling anything that bad. But everything that's coming through this panel looks great. So it's one of those you're going to have to suck it and see, have a look. You never know, I might find a panel that does support 15 kilohertz and gives me the quality I want, and so I can look at it from all angles and make sure it works. And if it works really nice, then we may move over to that. But that's what I'm saying, this is experimentation time. Probably another couple of months of experimenting. But let me turn this round and so you can see. I mean, you've seen the video, right? So you can see the side. Now, the whole point with this was, as you notice, this is the 19-inch panel. So it's got the thin bezel, and the idea was, if you saw on the video, the 17-inch just has a fatter bezel, and that's purely for looks. No practical use. It's a smaller panel, so you can have a fatter bezel. Now, let's talk about that actually. Right, let's talk about the bezel. Right now, I think this looks. Ignore this bit at the front, okay? I think the bezel, actually, this bezel looks much nicer than 19. But we experimented with colour, so I don't know if it actually comes out. I think it does come out. But I experimented with making it a complementary darker colour to the outside of the case. But it just, I don't think it well, when you get it and you look at it, because it's flat, it kind of looks like it's had lipstick on, I don't know. So we're considering the next one I get made, we're not going to have it painted, and we're going to see if the light on it, because a lot of these monitors like up here, which obviously I'm inspired by, didn't have that. So, and also I don't like the flat. Although I made it flat to see what it looked like, there's no texture in it. So I'm going to experiment a bit more, maybe an indent there or something like that. Someone mentioned actually to give it kind of a shadow, and I can do that in the mould. So again, that's something I want to improve. But let me turn it around. Oh yeah, let's just be clear about the stand. So the one thing about this here is you'll see there's a bare board here and there's no front, and in the pictures it's got a nice front. Well, this whole bit bottom is going to be higher because it's going to have a chin underneath. If you see these monitors under here, it's going to have the panel with all the buttons. This will continue flush like it's shown in the renders, and the controls will be underneath in a chin. Okay. The door thing, I'm not 100% sure how we're going to do the door, because obviously people lose the doors. So I'm giving that some serious thought. But it's going to be, so it's going to make it a bit taller, and then this is obviously just a temporary stand, just literally to have something to put it on. But it's going to have a proper moving stand, okay? And you probably have to remove it and then lay it down. So this design is going to change, but the fundamentals, I quite like the actual basics. Okay, like the side. Now the other thing about the side, I've got to be careful I don't pull wires out. So if I turn that around there, right? So you can see the idea was, it obviously looks like it's got 1084 styling, because I mean I specifically did this prototype to have the feel of a 1084. But it's not aimed to be, this is not meant to be an Amiga monitor. it's meant to look nice on an Amiga, but I want it to look nice on all computers. You know, it's subjective, and I'm, you know, got to try and work with people. But most of the feedback's been very positive. So there's a few little changes I'm going to make. You've got some nice little drops down here. See, I've already got a little mark on that. But the key thing was, I've got this here, this thickness here. That was never going to be just, let's just have an empty space, because when you saw the video, you'll notice the controller board down the bottom, which, as you can see, that's the controller with all the connectors on the base, and that's what you can see in there all plugged in. And then above that, you can see a whole load of phonos. Now, that's because on this board, it has component and it has stereo audio input and output and so on. So there will be a second row of ports that will come out the back of this board for things like, now bear in mind we're not going to have component in it because the new version doesn't have it, but it's going to have the two composites. So it's two composite. I think it's still got one composite out, so you can basically have a run off of composite out of it. Stereo in, stereo out, all that kind of good stuff. And you'll also notice then there's the HDMI. There'll be only one HDMI, but there's two HDMIs obviously, but one is used internally, so the external one's dead. Unless of course you don't connect that up, and then you've got two HDMIs. So you literally just got to take the cable out of that, or not connect it, and you're good to go. But then it's got VGA on it, and it's also got the new one's got two USB ports on it for like I think firmware update, but also for USB, so you can play videos and stuff like that, view pictures, because it's also kind of a multimedia display. Obviously it's 4:3, so if you're playing movies at 16:9, you know. But you know, so that's got quite a lot of functionality in this basic board, and for people who might literally just want to run, for example, a Mister on it, or run a PC in it, or run a couple of composite games consoles, then this will do what you want. However, there's obviously another tier of user that they will quite happily go down the road and they'll buy things like the OSSC, and then there's the RetroTink series of products, and those kind of scalers. So you can plug in component, you can plug in composite, SIG VHS, all of that, and then scale it up and make it work with a modern panel with no lag, because you don't want obviously lag in the system. So they're pretty good choice. Now I've tested a number, and I came to the conclusion that the only one that really kind of cuts the mustard for me is the OSSC. Now, as it stands at the moment, I am aware there's also a Pro coming, so I'm aware of all this. But the thing about the OSSC, I can get it at so there's two levels. There's going to be a white monitor. There's always the white. There's going to be a black monitor. Okay, basically the same, white or black. But there's also going to be a basic level one, so it comes with the basic board. So you can put in your composite, two composites, and trust me, the composite looks really good. Some people are going to go, oh no, it's not good enough. Well, then that's when the next option comes in. Part of the reason for the pods, right, is simple. You can put extra scalers in. Now, as it stands at the moment, this is all going to be firmed up. I've looked at them all, and the only one I would want to put into it myself, as a high-end version, is the OSSC. But there is a downside with that, and that is that it doesn't do composite, it doesn't do SIG VHS yet. There are add-ons, and there is a Pro version coming, so I'm looking into that. But you don't have to have this, and if you wanted to, one thing I'm going to do is make fitting kits. So you'll be able to buy this, and if you've got RetroTink and you want to put it inside, because not everyone wants to put it into the monitor. If you want to do that, I'll make a fitting kit so you can, with the cable, so you can just literally drop it in. The internal HDMI cable will come from there, as you saw in the video, and it will plug into the RetroTink or whatever it is, and then that'll be an internal board. There's also, from here there's power, so it will give 5 volts out, so you can plug that into your device. So the whole thing is done internally, and all you have at the back will be ports to plug stuff into, and of course you've got to set it up as you go along. But for me, the OSSC is at the moment, with this experimentation, is kind of risen to the top. As I said, there is a caveat with that there is no Super VHS at the moment. However, there is plenty of time, and I know there's a pro version being done, so maybe I just skip this version and go to the next version. Now, one big question I think I alluded to in the video, one of the things, let me turn this back. Let's turn that down. Have we got any comments about sound? Right, I'm going to go through the questions shortly. I just want to get this out. So the OSSC, now as I said, I'm going to make fitting kits for other boards. So at the RetroTinks, I'm hoping to get the dimensions of the holes so you can mount them in, and it's easy to do cables. I've already got a bunch of cables. We can plug a short Super VHS cable from the side and the audios, and we can run them to the rear on the panel, because as I said, those Podgeals are going to be a lot wider and a lot more room, and you'll be able to put it in, and there'll be kits to just plug everything in, and then you'll be able to get to it from the back. Nice short leads. So that will make it nice and easy for you. Another suggestion that someone made was, well, this got nothing to do with the wiring, but someone said about putting a handle, and I'm seriously thinking about that, because on the 1084, it had this kind of hump at the back, and I'm thinking of replicating that, but putting it so you have a position so you can slide your hand into the back and be able to lift it if you want to just move it around. You don't want to carry it far, but because these things, the plastics are not very heavy, but the metal inside is pretty robust, and so it'd be nice to be able to carry that around. Right, let's get back into the OSSC now. Obviously, the OSSC. First thing, let's get the existing version. Let's get the downside. Let me get a swig. The OSSC. It's brilliant. I mean, look, I've tried all the others, and the others kind of, they did a good job, but they kind of, I found they brightened it up a bit. Now, it could be I use this little, I use this on my MIG testing, and it's an RGB to component, okay? And it could be that this maybe is brightening out, but I don't think so, because I took the output from this, and I put it in a couple of them, and one was like burnt right out. You may have seen the video or not. I put it in the RetroTink, and it was slightly brighter. Okay, not a lot, but it was slightly brighter. But it was still, a bit brighter. I put this into the OSSC, perfect. Absolutely nailed it. So I think for me the OSSC is definitely. Now, the other thing about the OSSC is obviously because it's got no Super VHS, no composite. Now we have composite on this board. Composite I'm not worried about, and we have 2 of those. It's only the Super VHS I think will be an issue, because on the OSSC you have SCART, you have component, and you have VGA inputs, and then the associated audio. I know certain people are going to get but on the SCART there is X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but the OSSC does not support composite in its existing form. And so even if you've got that coming in for the SCART, it won't use it. If you've got SVHS or component going for it, I think it will use the component. But it won't use Super VHS, and it won't use composite. So that's the negative. We have no Super VHS at the S video at the moment. I know it's going to upset a lot of people, because I haven't given up on it. If we go running for the hills, I haven't given up on it. It's just something that we have to kind of, okay, we'll work with this. But the OSSC to me is, I think, an absolutely fantastic product, and I don't know how many of you know how to use this, but I spoke to Neil about this, and he was saying it's quite complex. It's actually not that bad. I love the flexibility of it. I really do, and I'm probably going to give profiles. Hopefully, you can give a profile that you can load, and have it all set up, ready to go. And the idea is that you'll be able to put the OSSC inside, which I've got this one now, but it will be a mildly custom version of the OSSC. And again, this is still to be finalised, but at the moment we're in discussions. And the main thing is because obviously with the OSSC it has things all the way around it, and of course, like for example, all your ports are at the back, but your LCD's on one side, and your infrared's the same side, because normally you would have that facing you with the screen and the infrared, and you just use that. Now, obviously, the LCD is inside there and it's pointing towards me, but obviously the screen's in the way. Okay. Now, it just so happens that pointing this at the back, because it's infrared, it bounces around. So for prototyping, it's actually brilliant. So I can go through here and I guess so you can see it's all working fine. But obviously on the finished product, you need the infrared at the front. And so one of the things we're going to do on the front panel at the bottom, it's going to be the basic controller, as you can see there. It's not necessarily this one. I'm probably going to design our own one because I want it to have, people have said this and I actually want it to as well, I want it to have my button that I have on here, have that button reproduced on the front of the monitor. But I also want to have a utility panel. So you'll have all these controllers, okay, sitting in there with your buttons. Now it's not going to be dials. It won't be dials. It's just push the cost up, make it more complex, and it will just be a nightmare. So we're going to stick with buttons, but we'll also have there's a couple of buttons for the, if you have the version with the OSSC, there will be a separate panel where you'll have the LCD display will be at the front, and then a couple of buttons, but of course you'll be able to use your remote control with that, and you'll be able to control everything. So, but it's all going to be on the front and hopefully looking really nice. Now, as far as the lid's concerned, I'm looking into the idea of making the lid so you can't lose the bloody thing. Haven't quite figured it out, but my thoughts at the moment is it's internal and it comes round. I don't know. I'm thinking about it because I like the idea of the panel, so you can close it, and if you pop it open, you can see your LCD display, but you don't necessarily want that all the time. So that's something that's going to be in probably the next version of the next prototype. All that will be in there. Size-wise, there was if I go back to the other picture display, as you can't really tell from there. I know because people have been asking what's the size. This hangs over the mini, say 3000 case, about an inch either side. As you can see on here, it looks really. I think it looks really nice on here because that was one of the things I wanted. Hang on. One of the things I wanted was it had to look good sitting on top of my 2000 and sitting on top of my 1000. And that was really important to me. Let's change this channel. See, go back to this. In fact, actually, what we could do is where is it? Oh no, that's plain there, isn't it? So here's the mile 1000. The door is going to be an interesting one. It may be that I decide not to bother with the door, but I think the door is important because you're going to want that. Now, the other thing I was going to put on it was now I don't know how this is going to work out quite yet. A utility panel. So on one of my big plus cases, which you can't see, on my plus cases, I had a little utility panel at the bottom, and you could put USBs. So I'm going to do something similar, but not skinny, so that you can 3D print a clip-in part that you can then put your USB bits on, your stereo, your phone, or whatever you like. It will come with one or blank, and then you'll be able to put your own bits, so you can kind of customize the monitor for your own needs. And if you don't have the OSSC, you won't need the LCD panel with the buttons in it. So again, you can use that for whatever you like. So there's lots in there. Now, the other thing which I haven't mentioned is if you remember rightly, there's a third pod empty. Okay, I'm going to stick one of these in it. So the idea is you'll be able to put in it, not this whole thing, but you'll be able to put a D10 Nano with a USB board and connect it I'm not. This is to be decided still. How exactly we're going to do this, because the easy way is to have the analog board and then go VGA into the thing, but another way is not to have the analog board on top and just go in HDMI. But of course, then you use the port, which you might be using for the OSSC. So these are the kind of things you have to think about. But yeah, so I want to put one of these in so that you could take this monitor, and it is a completely self-contained retro computer. And if you've got like a Mister system in it, I mean, it'll do just about everything you want. You could always put a Raspberry Pi in it. That's another alternative. As I said, one of the things about this is I'm going to be putting this on the board. I have a couple of 5-volt rails, and as long as because I'll be supplying it with a 5-amp power supply, or maybe slightly higher. Now 2 amps ish, 2.5 amps is enough for the panel and the OSSC. 2.5, 3. I've got it running on a 2.5. No, I've actually, that's a lie. I've got it running on a 5 amp, but it will run on a 2.5 amp. But this is quite low power. This display, this board doesn't. It's just probably an ARM chip, so it doesn't use a lot of power. This needs about 2.5, so probably 5 to 7 kind of amps. To plug it into the back, and then that distributes the power to the other devices with external connectors. So that gives you that. No, of course you don't have to. You just buy the very basic one, literally just to use the basic ports that come on here. Plug in a couple of, if you want to play like composite consoles. You'd have to see it to understand, but I'll give an example. I can actually do this now that the BBC is out of the picture. Except for the fact, bear with me. Give you an idea what it would look like. Right, if I switch this, but if you see that display there, I've kind of got it. Let me just switch this to scan. Oh, it's not going to let me. Damn. Auto for free. Right. Okay. That's fine. Right. Okay. You can figure this out. It's quite bright. That's the only thing. Let me turn the brightness down. Turn this down because it, unfortunately, with let me just adjust these. Oh. There we go. That's composite, right? And if I can change this display. Now you can hear the sound. That's because it's there's only one audio input for the composites. Overscan. Let me just make this. Let's just make this fit. There you go. Now that's in composite, but it's. Now I don't know how well it's coming out on the display here. I could probably turn up the brightness up a little bit. Let's turn the brightness up. Doing this live, always interesting. So in composite, because what it's done is it's taken it in. Even I know it's composite, and you it's actually quite. This is a high-res interlace display. For those who don't know me, because this is basically about 720 by 560. interlaced display, and you can read it. I mean, it's actually not bad. Oh, that's not interlaced. That's not the open, is it? Let's. You can read that as good as anything. So this display is actually the composite on here. It seems to, as soon as you switch it into the composite mode, it just kind of makes it look great. I mean, look. I go back to this, and again, this is one of those things you kind of need to see in person. Now, I'm going to be going to the OLL 20, unless it's cancelled, 2022 show. So if you're going to come along to that, you'll be able to have a look at the monitor and see what you think of it. And again, this isn't the final panel, but this gives you a good example of what I'm aiming for, because if I replace it, it has to be as good or better than this panel. But of course, I have to think budgets, because it's all very well having a fantastic panel if people can't afford it. But I'm not going below the quality of this one. Right, let me see about some questions. This is really good, because I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here. Let's go for these questions now. Question: did you say we were looking at 19-inch? Yes. That's for Jeremy. Yeah, 19. Yeah, the 17 I took apart because I prefer 19. And I've already done a couple of videos. I've done shown it's only a fat bezel basically. Now the other thing is on the 17-inch, the actual angled piece in was longer, and I didn't really like it. So that's probably going to change. I'll probably keep the same angle as the bezel on here and just make the surround fatter. But it's experimentation. Yeah, 19's fantastic. 19's definitely the best. Also, Paul's render is really... Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, well, this is the thing, you see, because I do the designs, and then... burnt electronics. I do the designs, and then because it's very hard to... You look at the models that come out of... I use Fusion 360. Look at the models in there. Even though you can render them, it's not the same. You give it to Paul, he takes those models and then he messes with them. Now, one thing you'll notice is on his picture, whereas I've got that, there's a big hole at the bottom, and you've just got that bare circuit board with the buttons on it. He put a cover on it with the Checkmate logo, which I really like, so I'm going to keep that. And it won't be a Pandora or anything like that. It's going to be solid. But I like that little raised Checkmate. I quite like that. So that's and it does help. So yeah, blow some sunshine up. Paul, he likes that. Steve using his A2000 Gen lock for this stream again. No, no. We can hear a bit low. Hopefully my sounds. In fact, let me bring this up here. Right, hopefully this is going to be again. But unfortunately, I'm not. I'm working my way down the questions now. So that's better. Paul Kitchen 1280 by 1024 isn't 4.3, it's 5.4. It's in the old days. It was 640 by 480, 800 by 600. In the big world, 800 by 600. Then it was 1024, 768, 1280 by 1024. That's how monitors came. So there you go. Poop. Yeah. Okay. Yikes. Should have been 4.3 and you know it. Yeah, whatever. Okay, yep, thank you. Ace, love the modularity. This is going to be a standard. Yeah, no, the thing with the modularity was I don't. It's absolutely no use making this thing fat just so it looks good. What's the point of that? Because it only has to be that thick. Because those controller boards can go in there and you can make it really thin. There's absolutely no point in doing that. But I wanted to be able to put in the OSSC or the RetroTink, the Mini, the 2X Mini, 2X Pro. I think it's got 5X, and I want to be able to put these in. And actually, because the other thing is, I've got like 6 different computers all connected up to the same monitor, and it's brilliant. Now I know you can do that, but most monitors you buy have got like an HDMI and maybe a VGA. TVs have more, obviously, but this thing's got an awful lot of ports, and it will have a lot of ports, especially if you put an OSSC on it. It'll have a lot of ports on it. so you can plug them all in at the same time, just switch between them. The only thing with this one is that, and it's the same on the other board, is the audio, the audio visual audio is the same for both composites. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do. We might be able to put mixers, so it gives 2 and then mixes in. I don't know yet. No, I don't think that would work. No, I don't think that would work, because on the chip, it just takes the one stereo and it uses the same stereo for both. Yeah, so you'd have to. But it's nice to have the 2. For example, the BBC would have been great because it's got a speaker in the BBC. Question: is there a case for rotating the boards 90 degrees so the air flows over them with convection to help them cool? Yeah, I thought about that, but I think it looked horrible. Look, these boards are not going to get hot, and we could theoretically put a fan in it, but they're not. It's all vents at the top, and I know they're flat, but there's plenty of air around them, and heat rises, and there's vents at the top. It'll be out. You know, and if you're going to do that, I mean, I'll probably put like fan holders. So if you want to put fans in there, you'll be able to put. But I don't want to do it that way, because then you've got slots at the top, destroy the look of it. So that's a definite no. The only way I would have done it is underneath, and even that looked daft. When is delivery date? Who knows? Right, I can give you a clue. So I've got probably. Let me bring my. I'll give you an idea. So, I've probably got another 2 or 3 months work, testing, finalising design, finalising pricing, functionality, and then it's Kickstarter time. Kickstarter usually runs for about a month, so in theory, end of Feb, or say March, we'll have the Kickstarter. A month, and then let's say 6 to 9 months. This is not a small project. I am not LG. I am not Samsung. And if anyone knows when I've done them, and I'll be completely straight with you. My first project was 6 weeks late. Second project would have been bang on time, because it got to the port in time, and then they shut the port down because of COVID, so they delayed it 4 weeks. So instead of being on time, I was 4 weeks late. I'm used to this. I've had 2 Kickstarters now. I'm probably going to set 9 months for delivery. I'm not rushing it, because if I rush it, I don't rush my projects. I try to do the best product I can make. So basically, ended it next year. Bring it closer. No. Well, I can't physically do it. That's the reality. It's not me being obstinate. I can't physically do it. This stuff takes time. This is a very complex work, firmware for boards. Then there's a custom OSSC being done. Then there's plastics is the biggest thing. There's metalwork. I mean, no. Are you planning matte or gloss panels? To be honest, the panels just one with it's an interesting point, because I saw a video the other day about glossy panels actually looking really nice. Now look, I mean, I think that panel looks fantastic, and it's not glossy. It's kind of, I guess it's matte, but it does look good. Glossy probably would look, but I don't know. I mean, it's all up for discussion. But it's down to balancing the cost. You know, people, this, and I've got to balance the cost to make it, make it so people can afford to buy it. Latency for gaming, that is a really good one. So the panels themselves are very low refresh. So the panels not worried about. I would expect the composite. Look, I don't want to quote it, because the trouble is, if I quote something, everyone's going to go screaming off to their mums and panic. And I haven't tested it yet. We haven't finalised the final version, but it's something that is important. I wanted to get, if anyone's got any the latency testing gear, If anyone's got one of those, I know you can get. I know I can probably order it. If anyone's got one, I can borrow it. It'd be interesting to see that it does do a latency test. You put it on the monitor. I'd be interested in maybe giving that a go. My gut feeling is that it's more than acceptable. I mean, I play this when I'm playing it, and it's fine. I mean, for me, the average gamer, less than average gamer, it's for me, I think it's pretty good. So if you're doing it for, the important thing is, this is why another reason I'm going with OSSC. Really minimal latency, right? It's HDMI, it's straight onto the panel, straight out, low refresh panel. You know, it should be it should be very fast, most photon, right? It should be really quick. But again, happy that we're going to be testing that because it's a sales pitch. People are talking about the whole, five. It's what it is. We always call it 4:3, but pixels. It's quite true. Pixels per square, but unless you're doing non-inches of scaling, the pixel count still matters. We can argue forever about this, but you can run this at different resolutions. If you want to find an exact 4:3, you can run it, but then the panel will probably scale it, or you can just put it in the middle. The OSSC does a fantastic thing where it just drops it in pixels. You lose a little bit, or maybe on the sides or the top or whatever, and it just drops it straight in. Do that. How bad are we looking at in terms of borders for integer only? I don't know. Again, this is why I'm testing. People want me to rush it out, but I've got to test this stuff. I do love that big bezel, but the one I've taken off. What about a shade of grey for complementary colour? Yeah, I thought about that because, originally I was going, I will just make it complementary to the oyster white. Yeah, it looked rubbish. I don't know if you can pick it up on this, on this picture. I wasn't happy with it, but not so much. Well, the colour was boring, but it was just flat. The angle, it needs a bit of character, and it hasn't got any. So I need to give that a little bit of character. But again, this was a prototype. It was just me putting something together that looked reasonably good, that I could play with and people can have a look at. What about a shade of grey? Yeah, I mean, yeah, possibly, yeah. All this is still open for design. It's still part of the design process. How about bezels in the choice of a couple of colours? Yeah, £100 extra. I suppose in theory, yeah. I mean, you could probably make it a £50 extra or something. But trust me, it's there's no, because I mean, it's stop. You can't. If you manufacture, I'm just so much space taken up stock. It'll be one to start with. I mean, maybe later on, but not to start with. Right. Question. I really want to put a Pi in it and connect the HDMI internally, but I have a second. Have the second one on the Pi as HDMI out. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean that's easy. I mean, where's my this isn't the one. I've actually got a whole load of these. Is that it? No, that's not it. I've actually got a whole load of these up here. They're up in the office actually. Right, that's an HDMI to panel mount. Okay, and on that's a normal size, but I've got the little tiny ones. So you'll be able to take one to the board and then one externally. It's easy. I mean, you've seen I make these panels. So the answer is yes. There's enough room for a hand space. No, do you know what? That's one of the things I found with this design, where I was going to say what I thought sucked. It sucked when I actually had to work at this. Why I built this, so I can physically work on it, because you see it on a computer display and you forget you've got to put plugs in the side of things, right? And I've got relatively big hands. And I had to take the panel off to do it, and it's a nightmare. So the whole inside is going to go to the size we've got available. Now, one thing you can. This thing has got speakers, obviously. I'm experimenting with speakers, so they're 25mm speakers. They mount on the chassis, or they mount on the chassis itself. And I bought a set. They were £3 a pair. Well, no, £7 a pair. Yeah, fine. I got the right spec. I just chuck them in there, wire them up, put them on the board. But people say to you about, is there a whistle? Yeah, these have got a bloody whistle. So again, it's just experimenting. But that is the sound coming out of the speakers, and actually it's not too bad. There's no bass, but we can make it bigger. We've got a lot of room inside. So I was talking to a musician, and so I said I got 50mm ones. You see, well, 65mm would be better. I think so. I want to get some speakers that are not expensive, but give a good quality sound. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be a hi-fi, but if you can make it so it sounds reasonably good, for a lot of the time. Obviously, there'll be external, plug into an amplifier. We'll have that on there as well. So all the sound will just go out, which will be absolutely fine. But it's nice to have speakers in it. Yeah, routing the Pi is easy. Make some fidgety hacks. Well, you're having a chat about. There's also the internal DPI port, and you can route display out for the I2C controls. Get out of it. No, not messing around with that. But we've got two HDMI ports on it. One can go internally, and that's what I'm saying. There'll be a fitting kit for the D10. There'll be a fitting kit for the Pi, and anything else that comes along. We'll make fitting kits, and I'll give the designs again. People can make their own fitting kits. You can 3D print your own fitting kit to put it in the back and mount stuff. And that's why I want to give it more room, because you saw the video. Hopefully, people on here saw the video. You need that space to work. Otherwise, you end up having to go around the front, as I did. I was swapping the panel anyway. But what you didn't see was later on, I realised I hadn't put the VGA connected to the OSSC, and I wanted it to be routed outwards. My God, I had to take the whole front off, take the panel out, and it's nightmare. Not enough room, but there's tons of room in the case. I just need to make that opening bigger, but now I know that. So there's a lot of stuff I've learned just by physically having it. Yeah, so as you put, the intention is whatever will be in the face of the controller board. Yeah, so there's a HDMI, but there's an HDMI and a VGA inputs. Probably going to use the HDMI, probably the best one. That, and then you connect that, and I'll have a cable that will plug in, obviously, which will have an HDMI connector on it. So, again, this is all to be done. I've done it. I've got one of these, one where you put wires and just literally screw them in. But they'll be all made, because we get lots of cables made, and there'll be cables made because it's like we don't care. It's a dual inline 18 pins to HDMI, and so we'll be making loads of those. I think it tells you why. Okay, right. Next question is a big one. Can you post the specs of the panel from the manufacturer? Not yet. I promise I will do that once I've decided on the appropriate panel that I'm going to go with. Then I'll post the specs. And the reason for that is I need to be sure that there's no point in me posting the specs now, because I'm not going to use them. It's a bit like that controller card. I'll be showing that, and it's gonna. They told me it'll be available for ages, and it's going in the line. They got a replacement now. Now, as it turned out, that wasn't ideal anyway, because you only have one HDMI port, and as soon as you plug internally, it disables the external. So it was no good anyway. And the new one is actually better. But I lose component, but the component will be available on the OSSC. But I think also I can make a converter to plug into the internal VGA. I'm going to look into that, because we'll be doing another circuit board with lots of ports on it. You plug internally like that to make it nice and easy to build, like a sub port board. Yeah, I wonder about response times. I get it. I totally understand. But I just don't want to release, because if I tell people if I tell people the specs and then we bring a better one out, everyone's going to remember the one that wasn't as good. So I have to, once I've nailed my flag to the mast, shall we say, then I'll make that available. Of course, I'll be talking to a lot of experts as well, trying to get the right thing, do the right thing. But again, it's a balancing act. Do you want to pay £300 for a panel that's perfect, or would you rather pay £100 for a panel that is 99% there? Wonder about response times. Yeah, grey to grey pixel response. Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff's got to be done. I get it. I understand, but I can't release that information yet because I don't know. I know the specs, I know, but all those tests. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The bezel would look better without the contrast. But even my wife says, she said, well, why don't you just make that same colour? Because the way the light reacts with it, it would look shadowed anyway. And I think she's spot on. I think that's probably what we're going to do. Definitely would wander more towards the 19-inch. I mean, you've still got that nice, relatively fat bezel. And I mean, the 17's going to be fatter because the angle bit that goes in, I'm going to shallow it. Make it steeper, so it's more like this one, and it'll be a thicker bezel then. But because I don't like the one I've done on the 17, it looks old. I don't like it at all. I don't like the paint. I don't like it. It just looks old. It's flat. It's boring as hell. Will there be a contrast on the black version? Yeah, that's another good question. Again, there's still a lot of experimentation to be done on this. That's why I'm not rushing. Here's the thing: some people, yeah, but I want to buy it in a couple of months. I'm not Samsung. I'm not. They keep stum about it and then just release it. There you go. Do you like it or not? Oh well, we'll have the other one. I can't work that way. I have to get this version as close to what the most people want it to do. I have to try and meet them needs, and I only get that by these discussions. You're not going to leave the blue LED, right? Yeah, no, it's just come on the board. I told you we're going to do a custom board. We're going to have our own little board we're going to make with the buttons, because it's horrible because they're really close together and you're trying to figure out what they are. So I'm going to spread them out a bit, make it so it's a bit more obvious what they are. There'll be probably a subtle little one. It might, I don't know what it's going to be. But it won't be that horrible blue one. That is too much. Even I'm looking at it now, it's really bright, isn't it? Not a blue LED. No, I don't like blue LEDs, no. Is the panel being driven for HDMI LVDS? There you go. Well, there you go. Interesting question. But is HDMI going into LVDS? At the moment, hang on. I'll turn it back on. To wall mount it, can I just super glue it? No, you don't wall mount it. I will say that people have asked for VESA mountings, and I'm going to have VESA mounting points because I'll probably use them as well because to fix the plastic to the chassis is because the VESA mounts are all different sizes. Going to be the rectangle one, and that's going to bolt the whole thing together, so you'll be able to bolt that to something and then shove it on whatever you want to do. To be honest, if you're thinking of doing that, why you bother? The whole point of this is it's meant to look, the plan is to look nice on a computer or next to a computer or next to a console. It's not meant to be shoved up in the corner. You could buy a cheap monitor for that, because this isn't going to be cheap. Not expensive, but not. How big are the Podgeal apertures compared to the mini ITX backplate? That's a good question again. Right, okay, so they are probably going to go to this size. Okay, at the moment they're about that big, but they're going to go full width because I can't move. There's no room in it. Can't work on it, so it's going to be quite wide. because you have to slide these in and you have to be able to put stuff either side of the parts, as I found, and it is very tricky to do. Yeah, look, the question of mini ITX. Well, look, well, here's the thing. This thing is about that wide, right? If I go mini ITX, it's that wide. Oh yeah, it looks better on a computer. It does look better on a computer. For what reason though? Why would you want to put an micro? Because if you want to put something like an Amiga into it, then get the reloaded, because it's skinny. The reloaded will fit. Yeah, you could easily put that in there, no problem at all. And I know in Edu, he'd make a custom one with it, make sure everything's at the back and it's all powered internally. So no problem with that, right? But it doesn't need to be mini ITX form factor. The rear, yes, to give you plenty of room to work in. There's tons of room in the back of that monitor, so we can make it nice and wide, the Podgeals, but not as deep. It's about roughly 100 deep-ish, 120, something like that. And I don't mind making it a bit bigger, but I need a bloody good reason. Putting a mini ITX motherboard, no, it's just not worth it. And some people say, well, it's not in the top. No, it doesn't make any sense, because you can put a D10 Nano in it, you can put a Pi in it, you can put, you could put an Amiga Reloaded in it. You can put lots of fantastic systems in there. And you don't need that space. So having it, and because you have to remember, is these have to be shipped. If you make it like go from being that big to that big, that's twice the amount of volume, and shipping is done by volume, right? So everything just gets more and more expensive. So I'm a bit late. Oh yeah, Dr. Zeisler, you missed all that. Yeah, I've done the 15 kilohertz. I mean, this is 15 kilohertz, so if it helps. It's running at 15 kilohertz. It's coming out 15 kilohertz, going in there, and it's being displayed. Everything I've been running on here is all 15 kilohertz going into it. Okay, it's been processed and output at 50 hertz. Yeah. What do you mean by 15 kilohertz, 50 hertz? Yeah, it'll scan double and do power. Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay, is that the last one? I wish I had this monitor when I was lugging my 70 pound CRT up 3 flights of stairs. It's just not light. It's not heavy, but the metalwork, we're going to have to probably use thinner metal, and I'm going to cut a lot of big holes in so you can work inside to get to it. But at the moment it's just solid metal. There's a lot of metal in there, and it's quite, the panel's not light, necessarily light. And with the metal, the plastics weigh nothing. But the metalwork and the panel and all the control boards, I don't know how much, but it's not like an old CRT. It's not like that at all. But it's not lightweight. Question, is it worth making the whole cage slide out to make it easier to connect up? Also, are you going to do a poll? A poll? Oh, do you mean P-O-double-L? Well, look, it's burned in, 17 or 19. I'm not making the design any bigger, because the idea with the 19-inch was, it's not much different to my other normal 19-inch panels, width and height-wise. It's a little bit more, but not a lot more. And at the back, it's obviously got the depth and it's the volume and so on. I didn't want to make it even bigger, to give a fat bezel. So 19-inch. I actually think that bezel's alright on there. Personally, I think that bezel's really nice. It does get, especially when you've got that chin underneath it. When that bit at the bottom's done and the stand's all finished, and it's probably going to get a little bit deeper, not much, but a bit deeper. Once that's all done, and I maybe put a few more curves, I think it's going to look bloody good. I think the 19's best, but you will still, because it's just a different bezel. There'll be two bezels, 17 and it's always going to be 17 and 19. I did think about 15. Can't see the point. Can't see the point. Yeah, well, everyone's actually saying that for me. It's a bit like 1084S, yes. It's interesting because I'll show you something. Let me get a picture up. You can see how I did this. Come on, where's my photos? Oh God, you can tell I don't use this so much. Oh, here we go, right. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? So basically what I did, the one opposite on the right is a 1084, which is mine, and I put it in the thing and I just shrunk it to see what it's like, and I shrunk the front, you can see the front bezel, I shrunk it, yeah. So it wasn't meant to be the final one, but it was meant to be kind of, I've got to start somewhere, so I'll build it from there. The only difference is I haven't got the hump, but I'm thinking of putting the hump back in just so you can do the handle. But you can see up on the wall my 3000 poster with that monitor, and the 4000 it's got a nice monitor. So I'm kind of inspired by the Amiga monitors. I'm an Amiga fan, but I don't want it to be. I want it to so it looks nice on other computers. Yeah, that's the plan. Because this has to go cross community or it fails. I mean, it literally fails. Because I've already guessed the only way this success, I have to sell 1,000. My ballpark is about 1,000. With the plus cases, I needed about 600, I think, and I sold 650. This has got to be because there's a lot more plastics. It's all plastic front, back, and then it's metal. It's a lot of money. It's going to be 60, 70,000 in molds. So, it's not a cheap thing to set up. Right, well look, just for one panel size was cheaper. Yeah, I mean, no, it's not really, because actually, fun enough, really interesting, if I go for these panels, the 17 inch is $2 more than the 19 inch. Makes no difference once you go over 500. Even 1,000 knocks a couple of dollars off. So, look, it's not making a lot of difference to me. It's the only thing with it is it may be the first batch because I'm still working on shipping. How we're going to do shipping, whether it's going to come here and I assemble them like I did with the monitors, with the cases, or if they're done over there. But I'd like to involve my UK manufacturing guys. So I don't know. It's all up in the air at the moment. Yeah, well, thanks for that. Yeah, the design it's not finished by any means, and I mean I'm happy-ish with it. I think it's come out better than I thought it was going to come out, and people like it. But I'll turn it around again. People like it. You see, and that's the great thing about these panels. You see. You can see it from an angle, and that's why I want that. Better shut down Nintendo content, or else Nintendo will shut down the channel. Oh, that's a good point. Whatever. Yeah, the black 1084S is. Yeah, it's nothing to the 17 and 19. It's just different. It's a different front. I mean, it's another mold for the front. But I'm going to do a poll. And if it turns out that like 10%, 5-10% want the 17 and 90% want the 19, I ain't doing a 17. That'll be later. There might be a stretch goal to do a 17 then, but we'll have to see. I don't know yet. And on the subject of the 1084, the black one, it's very true because I think this is my idea. I'm hoping this in black is going to look really good on the CVTV. That's my hope. What Starius wrote: some screws to pull the top 2 or 3 bays out for interconnecting lovelies would be awesome. Yeah, did you watch the video? You just take 2 screws, drop it out, put it back in. At the moment, it doesn't work that way because all the cables kind of sticking out and there's no room. But once I've got the size bigger, it'll be a tray. You get it all in there, and everything will just slide in. If you notice on the back, they're curved. And one thing Paul hasn't seen yet, he's kind of inspired me on it, because what he did, he made the moulding have kind of a ridge that sticks out going around it. So I'm doing that in the plastic, so this will just drop into a cutout. Oh, there's still 5/4 panels produced. I don't know, what's a 5/4 panel? They make 1280 by 1024s, and they make 1024 by 768 panels, whatever that is. One big removable cage at the rear too. Yeah. Yeah. One big cage. Because it would solve certain problems, wouldn't it? The only times when you're pulling it out, because here's the problem. When you pull it out, the cables are only so long, so they're all connected up to the panel. There's two wires go to the panel, great big thick wire, which is the LVDS panel connector, and there's a little tiny one. If you yank that whole thing out, you're ripping them out the panel. So that would be a concern. But then that's but it might be something I can separate that. I'll give that some thought, because I've been thinking. I originally thought just simple ones, but actually you need to connect them all together, and I think one panel that comes out might be a good idea. Yeah. Was the colour being discussed already? The inner bezel looks like it needs some retro paint. Yeah, that is horrible. It was meant to be. We'll make it, complementary colour to it. It looks horrible. Looks like someone's thrown up on it. Any idea the cost difference between 17 and 19? Probably the same price. Literally, there's nothing in the difference of the panels. The prices are the same. It makes no bloody. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. There's no difference in the price of the panels, and if anything, the bezel there's more. The bezel for the 17 will cost more to make than the 19. So technically, 17 might be more expensive. That's the reality. Marketing is a different thing entirely. Marketing's different. Right, so DR's Isla. I thought only 16.9, 16.10 or even 21.9 were actual produced. So these new old stock? No. Well, you missed the beginning. These are industrial panels. So if you go to industrial, which is massive, and but the industrial community, like for machinery, they don't put widescreen. They put 4:3 panels. They mostly have them in machines, and they have to be durable, quality, easy to read. They have to be good, and they have to last. So the industrial panels mean that these things are not going to be not cheap, but they will last. But they produce loads of them. It's just all you're thinking of is consumer level stuff, which is 16.9. This is not. This is industrial. I think it's industrial supply that's building the panels, not old stock. There's loads. Well, if you're thinking of buying it because it's cheaper, no, 19-inch all day long. This is, if you look on this on the big video now, as soon as I'm not sitting there, let me just zoom that in a bit. What I'll do is I'll just zoom in a little. Let's go in a little bit. It's a nice. I'm really pleased with. If this project goes no further, I'm really happy with this model. I mean, that was always the thing with the Plus case. I actually wanted to build a case I could for myself. It's a really expensive monitor. That thing there's about £1,200 for me because it's prototypes. Thank God for my Patreons, I tell you. But it's a lovely monitor. So I'm going to make another one. I think there's a load of design changes. I've already talked about the chin underneath, the controls. I like the idea of the single cage, but again, I've got to think about that. The connectors. We'll have to look into that, but that's the only thing. Pulling it out like that and snapping the cables off. So I might have to make them a separate, so you can pull it out, disconnect them easy. Because I can see people going like that and just destroy the panel. You rip that thing out, and that's the panel gone. Is that better? It's a good question on the 17 because I don't want a 17-inch panel. I'm only doing that because certain people, they want it to look retro, and the fatter bezel will make it look more retro. And that's the only reason. No other reason. Because I'm not changing the external body size at all. I thought it was a way of doing both. But if there's no demand, I'm quite happy doing 19-inch only because for me, 19-inch was the size. And there'd be no difference in price. Literally no difference in price. I might have to make a difference in price. Probably not though, because it's going to cost me, technically it's going to cost me more to make the 17-inch than the 19, because at the price I'm getting at the moment, the 19-inch is slightly cheaper the panel than the 17, and the plastics are more expensive for that front bezel because there's more material. I do. So look, the 17's great. If you run it, because it's 1280, still 1280 by 1024. When you put like a D10 nano in it with that scaling, the smoothing, oh my god, it looks fantastic, and it really does a good job. It looks really good, but the 19's just bigger. I don't want it massive, but it reminds me of the old 21-inch monitors in the old days. You see, that's pretty much the size of the 19, because the 21s, the display size was about 19. So hopefully it will not end as a Pro XDR display and the stand will be charged extra. I was considering actually making it extra. Do you think I'd get away with £1,000 for the stand? No, I mean the plan's always been to make the stand part of it. You don't, but you don't have to put it on, because sometimes they look really nice. Just because if you notice, it's tipped back 5 degrees, because that stand does not. It's just a solid piece and it's moulded part of it. So all you can do is turn the whole bloody thing around. But the next version it will be. Yeah, so 19 inch. Yeah, most people I think are going. I mean, I love it. I just think it looks fantastic. Even the angle of where the angle goes into the screen. It's deeper, more angular. The other one's shallower, and it just looks. To be honest, it looks rubbish. So I am going to reproduce the angle in from the 19, just make the bezel fatter. But the one thing also is I've got to. Loads of things I've got to fix on this design anyway. 500 for a set of wheels. Yeah. I'll tell you what we'll do actually. Let's switch to something completely different. Let's go to VGA, because on there I've got, let's get the right one. There we go. Let's see if it corrects itself. There we go. How's that? Something different. Right. Does anyone want to see that? Do you want me to, for people who came in late, do you want me to play that video again? For those that didn't see it, so you can see the insides, because I think, yeah, so I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to come back, I'm going to play this video again. If you've seen this, apologies, but it's only 4 or 5 minutes. I'm just going to play this video again so that people weren't here can see this, you know, taken apart, see the internals. I think it's worthwhile for them. Okay, so I'll watch this and I'll come back to you shortly. Alright, before I tear it apart, it's having some changes made. Okay, this is well, this is underneath the front bezel. You can see the metalwork frame and the 15-inch panel and the way it connects and little brackets. Obviously the 19-inch goes straight to the ends and then mounts here. Here's the rear view. Now this is the idea of the pods. Now take this piece as a pit with a pinch of salt, because we've not finalised this yet, because it's down to the controller. But at the moment the one we're using has got all these ports, and this is component and this is left and right audio, and it does 2 composites. Whichever one we have will have 2 composites, but I don't know about the rest of it. Don't hold me to it. Decide, make your decision based on the final version. This is just to let you know as we go along. And of course this is the OSSC, and of course there's a new version coming. It's complex stuff. Here you can see inside, now you can see the metal frame. This is how they're going to come, powder coated. So the metalwork, this is not plastic, this is metal. The outside is plastic, this bit, but this is metal. So it's the structure and the strength. Okay, and you can see in the bottom I have the controller card. Now this may change. We haven't finalised the controller card yet because it's quite a complex subject. And at the top you can see I've got my OSSC. Now obviously in the final version this is still to be discussed, but we need to move that LCD panel to the front of the monitor, and also the infrared, that kind of thing. So as I said, this is a prototype, so bear with us. Okay, I've powered that. Now again, this is a prototype, it's important. That's coming down to a splitter, and it's coming down to, I've got a jumper on the board, which is giving me 5 volt and ground. Asked me about the story about me sticking 12 volts up my mister the other day. Don't make that mistake. Luckily, thank God for Intel being good designers. It didn't blow up the D10. Anyway, best beside the point. Yeah, so that's all plugged in. Of course, you ain't going to be able to see the screen, and you can't. And the LCD's, the infrared's going to be interesting because it's obviously facing inside. But I'm thinking of prototype, really important, because people go, "Oh, that's no good." It's a prototype, right? So this is just for me to test it. There are plans afoot on that. But anyway, so yeah, that's before I put it all together. So that all looks quite good. There's another hole here. I'm going to put my D10 Nano in it another time, not for this meeting, but probably for January I'll have my D10 in it. Okay, so 19 inches in there now. And you'll notice on this side we've got some packing because it's a little bit wider than the panel. It's tight this end, but I've done that because of the cover. Remember, again, I know I keep saying it's prototype, but I'm a bit, nervous of people going, well, that looks rubbish. Anyway, okay, it's all built now. Got lots connected. Let me turn it around. So there you go. So now we've actually got this working, which is the OSSC. I've got component. I'm not using the internal VGA yet. I'm going to use that to connect up my D10 Nano. See, we've got the bits all connected down the bottom. We're good, isn't it? Hello. So, good questions come up from Jeremy about. So the colour is paint. No. This is a prototype. So when they make the prototypes, they're 3D printed, but the material, it's 3D printed. So what they do is they spray the external, they like double spray, and then the idea of that is it gives it a nice colour, but it's still only a 3D printed. If you hold it up to the light, you can not see through it. It is beautiful and smooth. The final product is like my plastics. It's the same as normal injection molded plastics. So no, the colour will be actually part of the material. It will be the material. So no, it's not paint. No. There we go. 12 volts up. I missed the edge. Yeah. So what happened there then? So I've got a 12 volt pack, and I was upstairs now. Upstairs I was testing, and what happens is it comes off of the board. I put 12 volts. I put 12 volts into this, right, and then I've got a connector here, and it gives me a couple of 5 volt rails and a couple of grounds. So it's good for powering external stuff. But I plugged. I thought I'll just run a quick test, and I put this power supply with the splitter into my Mister, and I connected both plugs up, turned it on. Smoke poured out. And well, basically, where is it? I've thrown it in here actually. Let me see. I'll show you. Yep, still smells. So basically, this blew up. I know it's understandable. It's meant to be 5 volt, and I shoved 12 volts up its bottom, and this blew up. The chip literally burnt the top of the chip off. Killed it, stone dead. But I thought I'd wiped out the Mister, but obviously Intel are very smart cookies and know that like people are dickheads, and they forget to put the wrong power supply in it. So but I just swapped out that board, put a new one, and it's up and running again. I couldn't believe how lucky it was. There you go. So good old Intel, eh? Can these panels handle lower resolution natively? Okay, look. Oh, okay. No, I see what you're saying. Right. Okay. If you're talking VGA, if you're talking 240, no, that's one of the problems we got. The composite is fine. It'll do anything. And I know you're gonna say, oh, it's bloody composite in it. Well, the way these things process it, and they do a really good job with it, and it does work, and you can put anything into it. The VGA though, on the standard boards, this can't do 240. You can't do it. That's why I've got this secondary board going in. That's why I've been experimenting what's the best one to put into it. So I have to work in the reality of what it is. I mean, I'll give you an example. But the OCC is really expensive. Yeah, but that's a tenner. It kind of balances itself out. Actually, it's probably a bit more than that, but yes, I mean, it's literally, that's probably about what it costs. If you're going to put, this is the thing. If you don't want composite, that's why I was really disappointed with component, because this board has component in, and I put my Amiga component in interlace, and it was just gorgeous. As soon as it went to non-interlace, it wasn't the resolution, it was the interlace. As soon as you turned off interlace, didn't want to know. It's completely screwed. So, there you go. The current controller does 240p properly, only in composite. That's why you're going to need something like the OSSC, or one of the others. I mean, I'm going to go with the OSSC. It's a bit more, to be honest, compared to the Retro Tink, it's the same kind of price. But obviously I can get them better than you can, because I'll be buying lots. So I can, You won't notice the cost. For removable cage for cables connecting to panel, maybe just make them longer. No, I don't think that's the case. I think what we might have is a junction board. You plug them into it, and a snap out connector. I don't know, something. If I'm going to do that, right, I'll obviously think about it and I'll do it correctly. Plus one vote. Yeah, I know lots of people are going to want that. I was thinking something like 644, 80, 1020. Oh no, it's fine. Yeah. No, you're fine with that. No, absolutely fine. 1024 and anything like anything that's interlaced with 480. Well, I don't know if it's interlaced, but either interlaced or progressive. Sound should be at least 1084S and up. Yeah, I mean, look, these are stereo speakers. I can't turn it up because I've got a 2-year-old in bed. I mean, these were I just grabbed it, they look shiny. And they were the right spec for what the board was giving out. But I will be testing lots. But there was no bass in these. And they're 50 millimeters and probably gonna may go up to bigger, but I mean it's more about me finding some that can give a little bit of bass. These are very trebly, a bit too trebly for me, but they're not. But they're going to be. I think they're going to be as good as. I'm look I won't ship anything that's not at least up to 1084S quality. They're going to, it's going to have to be pretty good, but don't expect hi-fi. There should be a volume knob and an amp, and of course good speakers. The sound should be right. Look, the problem is most people are just going to run them. There's going to be an external audio. I mean, I can see my wooden speakers there. They're fantastic. Called edifiers, and I know I've got the audio on it now, but I'm not going to have it. I'll run it through the edifiers normally, but it's nice to have that audio. But yes, look, I do want nice audio, but I'm not going all out on audio. Just make it sound nice. I want a bit more bass. But I've got to be careful of cost. It's a balance. Not everyone would. Most people are going to just plug in, take the audio out of it, wallop straight in speakers, and that's just how they're going to do it. Yeah, I know. Thank God it was the USB port. I tell you what, I would. My wife was. You see the smoke, and you're thinking, why isn't it working? And then you see that smoke coming out, and I'm like, don't swear, my baby's downstairs, don't swear. And I'm going, oh my God. And the wife wanted me, it was really funny, she wanted me for something. I said, you're going to need to leave me alone for a minute. I've just killed my £300 mister. But luckily I hadn't. Maybe reintroduce the clonk. Yeah. Well, I must admit I quite like the idea. Maybe a couple of handles, like a couple of handles that you pull the whole thing out. I do quite like the idea of that, but it would have to be so that if you did, they could just ping off, right? And I know, because the problem is, if the board was that way, the cables would just go ping, ping, but it's that way, so they're kind of dragging. It might be that we put an extender, and then it pops the extender out. But even then, there is potential for it ripping. So, and this will be at the bottom. It's just something I've got to think about. I'll think about it, and if I do go with that cage, I can't, because it's a bitch to work. It is a bitch to work on it. But yeah. But that's the only thing is, well, having said that, of course, then there's going to be the bit in the front. There's more involved than just that. There is more involved because I've got connectors at the front. It's tricky. It is actually tricky, but we'll see. It could be that you pull the cage out, but you leave the main board at the bottom. Yeah, does that make sense? So you pull out the top two, because the only thing you need to connect is the power and the HDMI. So I don't know. I'll give you some. Yeah. See you later. Right. Okay. So hopefully this was worthwhile. Hopefully people got something out of this. And I'm not going to do a stream next week. I'm going to have a week off, obviously, because it's Christmas. But I'll probably do one the Monday after. Noisy buggers. It says he with free motorbikes bikes in the garage. I think. Let's press this. Look like Alfie does. Is there any more questions? Because otherwise I'm going to call it a day. And hopefully you like the monitor. I'm sure most people seem to be very positive. No, I've not had any negatives. No one's turned around and said it's ugly, which someone said to me about, that's really nice. I said, but this is nothing compared to it. It's going to look a lot nicer than this. But I'm encouraged by the fact that the whole 1084 look has gone down quite well. I'm going to make it a little bit more. I mean, it's not a clone, nothing like that. Kind of that little bit of a feel of that. It's just meant to be retro and to look. I'll see. So speakers can mount to cage too. They do. There's a little bracket. I was actually gonna. I've got a spare frame. It's up in the loft. Maybe I'll get it down next time. But there are speaker brackets that mount to the main chassis, because I wanted that because it's a stable base for it and it won't vibrate. Otherwise, there's potential for it to vibrate. But I'm thinking of maybe keep these as tweeters and then maybe put a base. I really don't know. I don't know enough, and I've got to learn. This is something I've got to learn about speakers. But yeah, right. So, any more questions? Because I'm going to call this a day. Quite smells. My BBC Micro. May she rest in peace. I'm hoping it's just the power supply that blew up. But that is depressing. It's proper depressing. No, because the speakers mount to the main cage. I can't have them separate. I could, but I don't want to. Right. If there's any more questions, great. I'll answer them. If there's not, I'm going to go see my wife. But I'll send it to the cave. No, I'm going to go and see Neil. We planned. I was going to go up and play with Neil. Going to go up and see Neil and plug it into all of his stuff and talk to. I've forgotten his name now. Well, that's as good a time as any. Crashed. Yeah, the 1942 is a nice model actually. In fact, actually, it's true. It's because it was multi-sync, wasn't it? This thing's very, very multi-sync. Oh, good. I'm pleased by that. Did you like the extra bits I threw into Ajay? Yeah, I threw a few extras in for you because it seemed an awful lot of money to pay for shipping for just a little panel. Anyway, happy Christmas, everyone. Hope you all have a good time. Oh, the camera's there, isn't it? And I will speak to you soon.